This is a quick overview of our basic settings on a Hunter Pro C controller. And what specifically we're going to work on this morning is our main controller settings on the right-hand side of the dial here. So let's just go through and we'll give just a general overview of what each of these four settings do. So the easiest way to do this is just to proceed one by one. So the first one is date and time. And so we see here currently it's flashing 2023, that's our year. So it's asking, what the year, date and time is for the controller. So I can navigate between each of the screens of date and time by using the arrow keys. And then if I need to make an adjustment, I can make an adjustment using the plus minus. So right now it's showing 2023. I'll press the forward button and then it's showing me for April. And today is the 26th, which is a Wednesday. So that's correct. So that's properly set. I press the forward button again and it's going to give me a time indication. Right now it's blinking AM and 8:51. If it was, let's say we were in the fall and we fell back, I'm going to hit minus and tell that to go to 7:51. If I need to adjust that back, 8:51. Same thing if I need to adjust my minutes, I would just use the forward button and then I would use plus or minus to make an adjustment. If I need to go backwards to the hour, I just go back to the hour. So that's our basic settings there, and then once we run all the way through that, it'll go back to blinking 2023. So that's all of the possible settings there in date and time. Our second position on the dial is start times. And what start times does is that tells our program, our set of zones, when to come on, so what time to come on. So right now we have on this controller, there's 3 different programs. Each of those programs can come on potentially four times on any given day. So right now, if we look at program A, that's set to come on at 4 a.m. And for this controller, program A is our lawns here. So those are set to come on 4 a.m. If I use the plus minus, I can adjust that up or down. So 3 a.m., 5 a.m., that type of thing. If I want to add a second runtime, so I want to come on in the morning and the afternoon, I could then switch over and I could add a second runtime for that to come on, or potentially a third runtime or a fourth runtime. And say, for example, right now we're putting in some new sod at this project, and I've got that sod set to establish on program C. So to establish sod, we want to water it multiple times per day. And so what we'll see here is there's a start time at 8 a.m. There's another start time at 12 p.m. and there's another start time at 4 p.m. So I've got that watering on, coming on 10 minutes 3 times a day. So it's coming on 30 minutes in total, spread out throughout the day to help keep our sod saturated. So that's an example of a time, or maybe I've got some pots that need some watering a couple times a day in the heat, those type of things. That's when I typically use more than one start time for a program. But otherwise, usually programs just have one single start time. And if we look at program A here, we'll see that program A just comes on at 4 a.m. and then the rest of the start times, if I scroll through, are off. Okay, so start time is our first piece. What time does our program and zone come on? Our second piece is the run time. And so the run time tells the controller for each zone. So let's say zone 1 here is our front lawn. How long does that run? So that comes on at 4 a.m. and in this case it's going to run for 15 minutes. And again, I could adjust that up or down. If I need to look at the second front lawn zone, that's also set for 15 minutes. If I need to go back, I can scroll forward and back there. And then I can make adjustments to the time based on that. So one of the important things to remember is when we're looking and reviewing settings is to understand what program. So in the case of this controller, program A is all our lawns, program B is all our drip irrigation, and program C is some vegetable boxes. So I've got those divided into 3 different classes of program depending on their water needs. So if I'm making changes, one of the frequent mistakes that people make is they don't pay attention to what program, and they say, oh, the front lawns don't have any time on them. Well, as a matter of fact, they do. It's just on program A that we can see there 15 minutes. If I then go into program B and I add 15 more minutes, well, now I've just doubled up my time. So it's important to pay attention to what program you're using. And if you're doing something like we have this controller set up, where we have divided programs by use type, in this case lawn, plants, and veggies. We just want to make sure that those zones are assigned accordingly. So let me go back in here. So again, we can see we've got 15 minutes. As we scroll through, then we can see the different settings there. If we back all the way out past number 1, it'll give me a total runtime. So you can see on program A, I've got 45 minutes of total runtime programmed, which corresponds to 3 15-minute lawn zones that I have programmed for this controller. So that's an overview of runtimes and how they work. So the last of the 3 legs of the stool that we need to program in order for our sprinklers to run is the water days. So we've told it what time of day to come on, we've told it how long to run, but we need to tell it what days to water. So in the case of this controller, I have program A here, and it's set to come on even days of the week. Then if I use the program button and tab over to program B, that's my drip, and I have that set to come on odd days of the week. And then for program C, my veggies, as it heats up here, those are going to be on 7 days a week. Usually for a little bit less runtime, but daily there to keep those vegetables that have higher water needs happy there. So that's how I have these divided up. Now, there's a few different options for how we can set days of the week. We can assign actual days, so we can say water on Monday, don't water on Tuesday, water on Wednesday, those type of things. We can do odd or even days, or we can set interval days where we say water every 2nd day, 3rd day, 4th day, those type of things. In this case, we have it divided between odd and even here. So that's it. Those are the 3 main settings that we have, and our controller will properly run once those are configured. The last thing that we're going to touch on is over here on the other side of the dial is the seasonal adjust. And what seasonal adjust does is, let's say we wanted to make global adjustments, which means all of the zones. So in this case, all of our lawns, all of our plantings, our vegetable beds, we're having a heat wave and we need more water, but we don't want to go into, in this case for this controller, all 10 zones and change all 10 zones. What we can do is we can make a global adjustment with percentage adjust. And so by increasing that percentage, it will multiply the total runtime. So let's think about that lawn that was set for 15 minutes. Well, right now I've turned this on to 125% of seasonal adjust. If I go back to my runtime here, we'll notice that that time I had 15 minutes programmed. Well, that time is now changed to 18 minutes. And what has happened is that global adjustment, seasonal adjust, is multiplied my baseline, which was set at 100 for 15 minutes. It's multiplied that by 1.25, 25 additional percent to take me to 18 minutes. The same thing is true if it was cooler, or if I wanted to reduce my total runtime. I could then dial this back down, and let's say it's real cool and I only want 50% of what I have programmed on there. If I go back to my lawn on zone 1, we'll see now that's been reduced to 50% of total runtime, 7 minutes. So that's, the basics of how seasonal adjust works. So I'm going to dial this back up to 100 and put that back to my regular settings. When you do that, you'll notice these indicator bars, which is a little shortcut to tell you that seasonal adjust is being used. So those indicator bars are set to 10 bars, which is 100%. All right, so we're done here. The important thing to remember is once we're done setting the controller, we're going to turn that back to run. We're going to close the cabinet and make sure it's latched so no water gets inside. And then, yeah, we're set to go on this Hunter Pro C.